Buddy, good afternoon for all of you out there who have joined us in the audience. Martin, welcome. I'm John Sherman. We're going to, chair of the board, we're going to get it started with a call to order. Sharon, would you read that for us, please?
Yes. Demita Beck-Taylor. Heidi Campbell.
Here.
Robert Deal.
Here.
Jennifer Hackett. Midori Lockett.
Here.
Jeff McCormick.
Here.
Beth Reardon.
Here.
Jason Repsher.
Here.
John Sherman.
Present.
Lisa Smith.
Here.
Michael Sullivan. We have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you, Sharon. Today this is a pretty auspicious meeting that we have. And it's going to be, I think, hopefully one that's going to culminate in us adopting a new solid waste plan. And I don't even want to call it solid waste. It's really a waste resource plan. Maybe that's what we call it, Martin. Before I do that, though, I want to make sure that we recognize two new board members who's joined us. We know we've lost some really great board members, but I've been assured that we even have greater replacements for them. So I would love if you could both just introduce yourself real quickly to the board and to the audience. Just say who you are and kind of where you're from. And yeah, there's the button on the right will turn you on.
That one?
Yeah.
Good evening. Hello. How are you? Jennifer and I know one another. I'm Midori Lockett from Vanderbilt University. I do community outreach and community relations and public affairs at Vanderbilt, and sustainability and waste reduction has been a passion of mine the last 10, 15 years.
Thank you, Midori. Lisa?
Thank you. I'm Lisa Smith, and I'm with Tennessee State University. My day job is I'm the Director of Experiential Learning and Career Engagement for the Business School, where I help great students find great jobs. But in my free time, I look out my window and look at all these nice paleontological rocks and love trash and want to see what we want to do with it. And I'm looking forward to a zero waste plan. Thank you. And I'm representing District 8. Nancy Van Rees.
Great. Thank you, Lisa. I think we want to recognize that we have Jennifer Hackett, so we'll get that in the minutes. Welcome, Vice Chair. So as I was saying, this is an auspicious meeting because we have the opportunity to really redirect how we're going to be looking at waste and the resources that right now we're sending, sadly, to landfills. So what we're going to do today is really have a presentation by our consultants on this, as well as, of course, a few other housekeeping details. And the plan is, and of course, I will listen to the board if they want to do something different, but as you recall in the last meeting, we had announced, as we've done at previous meetings, that this was, since we've had significant public input into this process, I would say, and Sharon, I think you'd agree that we've had more than we've ever had, and we've sought with, and we'll go into the details in that as part of the, I think, Martin, I don't know if you're going to summarize any of that or not, but we will if you don't. So tonight is really it's the board's opportunity to hear the final product and the board making a decision on it. There will not be public input in this meeting, just as we would do as if we were the city council, which we all want to be a city council person. And with that, before we turn to the presentation, we first need some housekeeping, that is approving the minutes from the last meeting. I would entertain a motion to that effect. Jeff moves. Second? We have 2 seconds. Okay. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have approved the minutes from the May 21st meeting. With that, we're going to do an update on the plan. I think, Martin, you're going to kick us off. And Sharon, I don't know if you have any other details you want to speak to as well, but Martin will let you, as our consultant, as one of them. I don't know, if Zach, if you're going to say anything as well, but okay.
I'll be able to control myself.
All right. Okay. Okay. Well, with that,
I'd like to just say a few intro words before.
Sharon is going to give a few intro words before we move forward. And Sharon, I would just say this even before that. So I want to have some intro words too. And just so for the new board members, it was a couple years ago when we realized that we weren't moving in the right direction. And we, as a board, decided that we need to do something different, and we needed to have not just the best minds from the community, the advocacy groups, and of course the brilliancy on our board, but we also we really needed some consultants to help us out. And we actually drafted more or less an RFP that we thought would give us what we wanted. Of course, we have no power to issue that RFP, but we made a recommendation to Public Works. They took it. They made, of course, the necessary legal changes to make it proper. We were fortunate enough to have that supported by the mayor and the city council. So $500,000 later, we have probably a third or fourth draft of this now. And so this was both a roll up your sleeves hard work, both from the paying side, we paid for it, but also from all of the board, as well as a huge amount of community input from advisory groups. I know that actually the consultants actually met with some of the advocates in their houses to talk about this stuff. So there was lots of detail and lots of input. So with that, Sharon, I'll turn it over to you to take us forward and bring up Martin. Microphone.
It's always exciting to see a group of people that are willing to come out and talk about waste reduction, and I appreciate everybody being here. There are a lot of people in this room that provided input, as our chair said, members of the nonprofit community, members of the state government, members of council who are not here, but the Public Works Committee that were interviewed in the many meetings and the meetings of this board that happened over the last couple of years. It's difficult to maybe remember as we're all aging, but it was early on in Mayor Berry's administration that actually our chair talked to her staff, as I recall, and she let us know at Public Works that she was going to fund a plan. And in her first budget year, she gave us the money for the plan. Well, little would anybody ever imagine that now 3 mayors have come and 2 have gone, and we're getting ready to start a very new time for Nashville with Mayor Cooper. And I think this plan poses a lot of opportunity for Nashville. You know, we have historically relied on landfilling our waste. And this plan outlines a way that we can do a complete course correction and move from landfilling to waste reduction over the next few years. We have no idea what Mayor Cooper's priorities will be. We do know he's a neighborhood mayor, which is super exciting. But the great thing is this plan is flexible, and that's some of the stuff Martin will mention. There are pieces that can be implemented in different times. We can do stuff out of order. I want everybody to know that we can implement this plan. It may go through some challenges. Some of you are probably aware that we have a budget problem here at Nashville, and we sort of have a large hole in our budget that Mayor-elect Cooper will be working towards resolving. So all that being said, no matter how long it takes, I truly believe that this plan is implementable and that we may have to get creative along the way, and we'll need your support. We're going to need the support of the many great people in City Council. We have a lot of, I was really excited that quite a few folks coming into council are environmentally friendly. We now have 4 members of City Council that are beautification commissioners, which means they've been beaten over the head with waste reduction and litter prevention, and will be supporting a lot of these concepts. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for the time that you've spent looking at the plan and giving us your input and supporting this process. And Martin, I'll turn it over to you. Martin has been very brave through this process.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, John. Appreciate the invite to come before this group this afternoon. I'm sure that everybody has read in detail the 400 plus pages associated with this plan, so I will take a high-level review of the plan, its components, and kind of the steps going forward. So if you do have any questions, I don't know, John, you want to wait till the end for questions? Okay.
I think we'll just, as you know, if any of the board members have a question as it's going, that's best just to get it clarified then.
Okay.
I will, if in fact, if we're here in 3 hours still asking questions, that'll be a problem. So I'm not going to, although the board loves to stay long. So
Well, we're here as long as you need us to be. I'll start with kind of a high-level view of when we got started. We want to have a zero-waste plan for Nashville and Davidson County. So we started looking at where are you at the start of this process. So what's our baseline that we're beginning with? And a couple of things that kind of jumped out as we were looking at the data, talking to all the stakeholders involved in the current system, is that, as Sharon mentioned, heavily reliant upon landfilling for managing the waste that's generated within Nashville and Davidson County. And over the past 10 years, it's been fairly consistent in terms of the amount of material that's getting landfilled and the amount of recycling that's done. There hasn't been a gradual trend upwards. It's been sort of a flatline trend between disposal and recycling. We've also seen a little bit of a dip in the amount of C&D material that has been recycled. And given all the construction that has taken place in Nashville, probably would have liked to have seen recycling going up in that component. But that aspect of the waste stream actually declined in terms of the amount of recycling that was being done. When you compare Nashville, Davidson County to sort of the U.S. averages, you'll see that between recycling and composting, that's about 18% of the waste generated in Nashville, Davidson County is diverted away from landfills. Now, as you look at the national averages, that's probably about half, because the national average is about 34% that gets diverted. So 26% recycled, about 9% composting. So definitely below the national average in terms of historically what Nashville and Davidson County has done in regards with waste disposal and recycling. So as we started digging into the existing system, the existing policies and the programs, and I apologize to those in the back, I'm just noticing that doesn't come through very clearly on the screen. A lot of the challenges associated with the solid waste system was that approximately 20% of the waste generated within the community actually is managed by Metro. So what that means is that 80% of it, there's no necessarily accountability or management of that waste stream in terms of where it goes, how it's managed, whether programs are put in place to divert the material. So one of the things with privatization, especially in the in the outlying areas, the privatization of waste collection and disposal means that you don't have the information in terms of how much is being recycled and how much is being disposed of, because the private sector generally keeps that to themselves. So you're kind of operating a little bit in the dark in terms of what's going on. And if you're trying to implement a zero waste plan across the entire USD and GSD, not having control or not being able to manage 80% of the waste stream makes that implementation of a comprehensive solid waste program difficult. Another challenge is funding, and not having enough funds available for education and outreach are definitely two key areas that we saw. Education is really important in terms of letting citizens, letting businesses know how to recycle, how to compost, how to divert waste away from landfilling, and also getting them engaged in the process, making them excited and energized about it. All that comes through education and outreach. And especially if you're trying to implement new programs, funding for that has to be even more important, because you're really trying to get people to change their behavior in terms of how they look at and manage solid waste. And so that funding, not having the funding available, is definitely a hindrance. It also affects the ability to, ensure that people are complying with existing bans. There are already existing bans on certain materials in place, but without funding to kind of oversee that, trying to get people to change their habits and to move away from throwing materials into the landfill that are supposed to be banned from going into the landfill. The other thing is recycling is voluntary here, and when it's voluntary, most people, don't do it unless they're really extremely advocates for recycling or waste diversion. When you're preaching to the choir, that message goes across very clearly. It's trying to get people to be converted to what we all strongly believe in. And when it's voluntary, it makes that job a little bit more difficult. The other thing is, there are limited options for landfill, to landfilling food waste and C&D waste. Food waste is a big component of the waste stream, and it's an area that if we really want to make big strides in diverting material away from landfilling, that's one of the areas that we'd like to target, along with C&D waste. There are businesses that are within the community that are composting material, but when you look at 32% being organic material of your waste stream, the few businesses and facilities that you have in place right now aren't adequate enough to really make a big dent. So we need to kind of push the needle on composting as one of the, so that's one of the challenges, is not having enough infrastructure for composting.
So Martin, I don't know if you're going to talk about this a little bit later, but the commercial side is more or less comparable in terms of the percentage of compostable materials. Is that right?
That's correct.
Right. So we're talking about 80% of most of the stuff is commercial, and or whatever that there's a huge opportunity in the commercial side too. So it's not just
in terms of the waste stream, you have a residential component of the waste stream and you have a commercial component of the waste stream. The commercial component is an area where there's a lot of movement that can happen in terms of recycling and diversion of waste, but the commercial sector is also the other component that we don't have as much insight into what they're currently doing, because they are private operations and they're not required to submit information into Public Works. So having a window into what they're doing in terms of diversion and recycling, is something that we're lacking at this particular point in time, but it would be part of the program, part of the plan to grow that and to get a better insight so that we can develop programs and implement the plan so that it's effective both in the residential and in the commercial sector.
Martin, just a real quick question, right here.
Sorry.
There you go. Quick question. I've read all this and probably looked over it, but you're knowing who those resources are in the commercial arena, do you have any idea of who's doing it, and then has it been documented, and where are they in the cycle?
In terms of? The
commercial, the folks who are commercial who are involved in either composting or food waste tracking and management.
We do have an idea on the companies that are involved in composting, and we talked to them during the part of this process, and they are open to expanding, their role in terms of receiving food waste and organic materials and increasing the amount that they are able to compost. But when you look at how much we'd like to divert away from landfilling and compare that to the existing capacity that's available for composting, there's a big gap between that. Even if you take the existing businesses that are composting material now and they maxed out to their capacity, we'd still be significantly short of what our goal is in terms of diverting food waste and organics away from landfilling.
So if I could just add, the current, I think it's a few thousand tons, just very minimal, that's being composted currently compared to what, and some of it we don't capture because a good example is Kroger with their Zero Hunger Zero Waste, they're doing an amazing amount of food waste diversion, but they are not necessarily diverting their food waste to composting. A lot of it goes for feed. And those numbers don't always get tracked. So there's stuff going on that we don't actually have data on, but to be perfectly honest, we still have a lot of room to go on organics diversion.
Because part of what we did, and I kind of glossed over it a little bit, is we did a waste characterization study of the waste stream. And so we looked at what materials were in the waste stream, what materials were in the recycling stream. And part of that is looking in the waste stream, we saw a lot of organics, over 30% of the waste stream consisted of organics. So there is a lot that is going on currently in the community to divert organics away, but there's a very strong component of it that's still going into the landfills. And that's what we were looking at as we were trying to develop this plan, is how much are we losing, and then what do we need to do to capture that material. So setting the goals and the priorities were about adopting a zero waste philosophy. We wanted to obviously look at waste generation and minimizing waste generation, but coupled with that, we also wanted to look at how can we maximize landfill diversion? How can we develop programs and policies and infrastructure to divert more of the waste away from the landfills? And in terms of the priorities for meeting these goals, we looked at strengthening public education and outreach. We also wanted to build county-wide programs for recycling and surplus food rescue. Right now, Metro sort of is focused in on the USD, and you got the entire GSD plus the commercial sector that we just really don't have programs targeted for. And so getting county-wide and also going across commercial and residential are key components of this plan. And also looking at how to increase C&D recovery and diversion. So the big thing here, as we've said already a couple times, landfilling has been the basis of the solid waste program for a while here. What we want to do is transition away from that towards, as John mentioned at the beginning in his opening remarks, resource management. So with 80% of the waste going to landfills, and with the Republic's Middle Point landfill, expected to close within the next, 9 years. I think I've heard ranges anywhere from 8 to 10, but in other words, its end is coming sometime within the planning future. And with that, that means that if you still rely on landfilling as your primary means of managing your waste stream, you're going to have to haul materials a farther distance, and that will mean increased costs associated with that. So looking at where landfilling and the movement of waste is potentially heading without a program like this, we wanted to say, okay, what do we need to do to kind of move forward and change the direction of solid waste management within Nashville and Davidson County? So along those lines, basically there are 5 key policies and program recommendations that the plan is built on. One is establishing authority, and by authority, having the governance and the policies in place, along with the funding to be able to implement new policies and to implement these programs. Without the ability to implement through policy, ordinances, and funding, we can have all these great ideas, but we'll have a lot of difficulty making them come to fruition without that foundation of authority. And then making mandatory recycling and food waste recovery. That's a big component. If we're trying to move towards 75% and then ultimately 90% diversion, we really have to tackle that component of the waste stream. And so looking at making recycling and food waste recovery mandatory for Nashville and Davidson County. Also looking at Save As You Throw, which is essentially a volume-based pricing program where the less you throw away, the less you pay in terms of your solid waste services that you receive, either curbside or as a business. That's one of the programs that throughout the country, a lot of the leading communities that are pushing towards zero waste, that's been a foundation of their program for years, is having volume-based pricing. So that is a key component for both the residential and the commercial sector in this plan. As we've talked about with all the growth in construction here in Nashville and Davidson County, C&D waste deposit system is a major component that we've installed in the plan in order to attack that component of the waste stream. What that essentially is about is that developers and builders provide a deposit. They put down a deposit, and it's based upon their ability to, the recovery of that deposit is based upon their ability to hit certain recycling goals. So if they hit the recycling goals, then they can get the deposit back. If they miss those recycling goals, then that deposit stays within the system and is used to find ways for recycling C&D materials and administrative costs associated with the C&D deposit system. So it's an effective way of trying to incentivize builders and developers to recycle C&D waste material.
And I'll just add real quickly on two of those points. As Martin mentioned, a lot of the concern right now is...
Hey, Zach, could you just introduce yourself?
sorry.
Because some of the board members won't know who you are.
So I'm Zach Daniel with CDM Smith. I'm here locally in Nashville. I've been working with Martin and the team some on the project. So a lot of the concern right now, as Martin mentioned, is the facilities in a lot of cases don't exist to take these streams. As Sharon could probably give you more details than I could, there used to be a much more robust C&D program, but as over the years, Waste Management or others, as these facilities sold out, then ultimately they would close down. So there's less and less places to take these products. The hope is the growth and development economically associated with a lot of the plan is as you put in some of these policies and mandates slowly and move those starting out with large producers gradually going down into the residential market, you also are then driving the economic potential of new companies coming in because once they know those waste streams are available and are going to be there to be utilized, you're going to have more business potential to have the drive for more recycling centers or more beneficial reuse of some of those end products. Right now, that's one of the big holes that exist is there's not even the sort of end product use available in a lot of cases. So that a lot of these things sort of go hand in hand with policies and procedures that then hopefully will drive some of the economic development of new uses here locally.
Trying to take my next point.
Sorry, did I jump ahead?
Quick question, Zach and Martin. So when you say there's no end use, do you saying there's no end use for the C&D? And
no, there are end uses for certain materials. Obviously concrete, drywall to a certain extent, metals. So there are end uses for certain materials. There are materials that are a lot harder to recycle or are harder to find markets and end uses for them. So those tend to be more of the challenging materials. And builders, they know copper, aluminum, metal, wood, scrap wood, concrete, some of those things, the larger builders, larger construction sites know that has value inherent in it. And so they're doing things to recycle those materials already. Mm-hmm. The challenge tends to be with medium-sized construction sites or even small home building sites that still generate a lot of C&D waste, but they don't have the facility size or the site space in order to have different dumpsters to segregate it and separate it on site. So then it all kind of gets mixed in to one dumpster and then gets hauled off. And so this type of program, one of the key fundamentals of this type of C&D waste program is that you have C&D processors somewhere within a reasonable transportation distance of the area. And so what happens is you're not asking small builders and medium-sized builders that don't have the space to try to have 3 or 4 extra dumpsters to separate everything. They can still put it in one dumpster, but then they can send it to one of these certified processing facilities that are basically have been inspected and certified that they will, run their processes, and through that you will see, let's say, 75% recovery of the material that's brought there. So that's kind of the underlying. So as Zach's talking about infrastructure, that would be part of the infrastructure that we would need to have behind a policy like a C&D deposit system. It does no good to have a system that requires recycling, but we don't have a mechanism or a way for the developers and the builders to actually recycle that material. And then those C&D processing facilities, they're generally the ones that are responsible for going out and identifying the markets for all the materials that they separate. And so that's, that would be their responsibility and their goal as part of their business plan, is establishing those end markets.
So just what Lisa, what you asked and what you just brought up, Martin, and goes back to this issue of like, so it's a demand supply, right?
Right.
And having conversations with you and Sharon prior to this meeting, and I think we all know, just reading kind of what's happening globally, it's not just C&D that's an issue. It's everything. And so, and this just is a reminder to all of us that just like in a sense, the admonition on the bottom of this one that says recommendations are dependent on legislative support of policy and program funding. Well, there's also the effect, our ability to succeed in this is all dependent on the markets.
Correct.
And while we can drive markets locally, right now we're either at the mercy or can take advantage of global markets, which aren't looking too good for some of the products, some of the materials. So I think, and it's only to say that we all have to both be really aggressive and be really pragmatic about what we don't control, because we don't control any of that. Just like we don't control a lot of the waste that is generated, and we don't have that opportunity at the moment. So just a kind of reminder to all of us that we're going to do what we can do.
What John, for y'all that maybe, the market in the Far East historically has driven the recycle market. China, India, other portions of the Far East. Currently, that's become a lot more difficult, and you actually have cities now putting out mandates, please do not recycle anymore, because it's, maybe even costing us more to recycle than it is to go to the landfill. As my buddy here always tells me, it's never, unfortunately, it's never going to be, landfilling in our part of the country is still the cheapest method at this point. But we have to look forward. That's not always going to be the case, and if we don't act now, I think that's certainly the negative side of the recycling market. I think the positive that we are seeing in the U.S. because of the response to what has happened globally is you are now starting to see more companies in the United States. We've seen more growth, I think, in reuse and recyclable product companies in the last couple of years because of this phenomenon than we have historically seen in the U.S., because it was much easier for most of these municipalities to ship all the recyclables overseas than it was to try to develop a market here. Ultimately, I think long-term, developing a market here in the U.S. where you're not shipping the materials, you're keeping it here locally, you're driving the economic development and job development is a big piece of what we hope to see here, not just in Nashville, but in the U.S. in general, recyclables.
Right. Yeah, I know we're gotten a little bit off topic, but I'll just put a bow on this one particular subject in terms of what's happening in China and what's happening in the global markets. The positive of that is that it's driving the U.S. and North America to develop homegrown end-use markets. And so that we're moving in a direction where we don't want to be as dependent upon other global markets for the materials that we divert. And that is moving in a positive direction. Have we gotten there yet? No, but it is starting to move in a direction where over the next several years, we will start to see more and more end-use markets locally that are available to take the materials that we're diverting. So that will, don't let the naysayers in terms of what they're saying about the global markets drive your thinking about where the future is going to be, because we are making adjustments in the industry for that. So franchise collection is sort of the last major program recommendation that the plan was built upon, and that is essentially establishing franchises just like you would do for cable or telephone or anything else. You have a franchise that you would offer to haulers. They come in a variety of different ways, but the bottom line is that through agreements with private haulers, Metro would be able to sort of establish a ground floor on what we want in terms of programs, what services we want delivered to residents and businesses, and then also open up some of the information in terms of how much are they collecting, how much are they offering in terms of services for recycling, for organics collection. So we have a little bit more of a management approach around what's going on now. And what's going on now is that you've got 25 different haulers going into different neighborhoods, serving different businesses, offering different services. There's no consistency in terms of what we're trying to accomplish in terms of recycling, composting, garbage collection. And the idea behind franchise collection is to sort of, for lack of a better term, standardize that to the point where everybody countywide has the same level of service and the same, from the vendors that are providing services within Nashville and Davidson County. So the four programs, aside from the policy aspect of authority, but the four programs that we just went through, those are the ones that really are going to move us from current baseline of 18% up to 65%. And that's just 4 programs. We've got 43 total programs in the plan. And so these are the major ones that do a lot of the heavy lifting. As you can see, and this is additional diversion above the baseline. So the Save As You Throw program, we're looking at 22% new diversion. The C&D waste deposit system would be 14% new diversion. So you're looking at between these 4 programs, 47% new diversion on top of the 18% in terms of maintaining the current diversion effort from residents and businesses, gets us up to 65% just off of 4 major programs. And that's why they're sort of the critical ones that we need to address from the beginning in terms of implementing this plan. Now, one of the things, obviously, with such a large, comprehensive remake of the solid waste program within Metro Nashville, there's always going to be cost associated with that. But what we want to look at also is what are the benefits, both economically, socially, and environmentally, so that we can have a complete picture of the cost-benefit analysis for all the programs that we put together. And so we basically did a triple bottom line analysis of all 40 programs that are part of this plan. There's probably more economic information and triple bottom line information in the plan if you want to really read it and dive into it. It is very detailed. But the bottom line is that we were looking at carbon emissions reductions. We're looking at economic activity. We're looking at the creation of new jobs associated with these programs. And when you look at it, the aggressive portfolio, which I guess let me back up for some of the new members. When we looked at this plan, we looked at it in terms of an aggressive scenario, which is how can we get to 90% as fast as we can get there? And then we had sort of a moderate, which is maybe not implementing all of those programs, and maybe we get to 50%. And then there was a conservative, which is very little movement at all and maybe get you to 30%. So we looked at 3 different scenarios. What I'm talking about here in terms of the triple bottom line analysis on the aggressive is these are all 43 programs being implemented as quickly as could be done and trying to get to 90% diversion as quickly as possible. And that is, there's definitely cost. You can, again, I apologize to the audience that it's not coming out very well. But there, a cost per ton of about $80 a ton. But in terms of overall social and environmental benefits, we're looking at, around $380 per ton. So on a per ton basis, we're clearing the hurdle significantly in terms of more benefits than cost for the implementation of this program. The aggressive portfolio is going to have the lowest cost per ton because you're taking the cost in the programs and you're getting the most diversion. So when you're looking at cost in the denominator, you've got a bigger number in terms of the amount of tonnage that's being diverted given a certain amount of cost. So that's what drives the cost per ton down to be the lowest under the aggressive scenario. So as Sharon mentioned earlier in the beginning of her comments, we wanted to make sure that there was flexibility in the plan, that the implementation could be accomplished in a variety of different ways, and understanding that Metro's current budget constraints and the change in leadership would require, potentially some flexibility in terms of not being able to, spending more time in the front end to educate and to bring the new administration, new board members here, Solid Waste Region Board, bringing everybody up to speed in terms of the program and the changes that are associated with the program. So the schedule can be adjusted to account for changing priorities. It can be adjusted to account for funding or other preferences. I would say the bottom line foundation is, again, the authority and the policies and the ordinances. Kind of getting those in place are sort of the initial step. And then as we want to roll out different programs at different times, you can roll them out as pilots. So you can take a year or two to kind of roll it out in a certain area of the community, study that, and then roll it out full wide. So, I mean, there's a lot of flexibility in how the plan can be rolled out over time. The aggressive scenario schedule had 5 phases and getting there in 20 years. And it had real early adoption of policies, authorities, and funding. We looked at an extended schedule that would provide 6 phases over 30 years. So we were looking at more of a gradual, pragmatic approach to system change. And a lot of that is early on, spending more time working with leadership, working with Metro Legal and Metro Finance and Metro Public Works, and just working with everybody to get them on board in terms of the policies, in terms of the ordinances. Getting that drafted can take years to get to the point where you've got policies enacted and can move forward. So we looked at it from that standpoint. The extended schedule also would mean, delayed rollout of some of the key diversion programs. So your ramp up in terms of going from 18% to 75% to 90% on an extended schedule gets flattened out a little bit, and I have a graph to kind of show that. So if you look at this graph, you can see in red is the aggressive schedule, trying to get there in basically 20 years. And you can kind of see a steep initial takeoff in the early years under phases 1 and 2, and definitely in phase 3. And that's an aggressive, everything falls in line. You don't have any changes in priorities. You have all the funding available. You have all the policies in place. The extended schedule looked at, okay, we're spending, as you can see, it flattens out in the first couple of phases, because that's meaning that we're spending more time early on getting adoption of ordinances, getting adoption of policies, getting programs ramped up and rolled out. And so that kind of flattens that curve out a little bit initially. And then once we have momentum, we have residents, we have businesses, we have leadership, everybody's behind it, then we can start rolling out some of the other programs, and we start really taking off. So it's allowing for a little bit more time during the implementation, but we're still getting to 90%. There's a little bit of flexibility, but we haven't changed the goal of the plan. The goal is still to get to 90% diversion, just maybe a little bit longer than than an aggressive schedule. Some of the key differences, kind of hard to tell by the graph, but what I wanted to do is kind of break down a couple of the key. The residential save as you throw in the aggressive timeline, that rolled out early in phase 1. Under an extended schedule, that would roll out in phase 2. And as I was talking about earlier in terms of the key programs, save as you throw on the residential and commercial side was a key component of this plan. And so if you're delaying that, then we're delaying a little bit of the diversion that would occur in the early years. The other one is if you go down a couple of lines to residential franchising, commercial save as you throw, and the C&D deposit program, those were the other key sort of heavy lifters of the plan, and those were being implemented on the aggressive schedule during phase 3. and an extended schedule, they're being pushed out to phase 4. And so,
Martin and Sharon, can you help me to understand when year one is? Is that 2020?
yeah, year 1 would be 2020.
But keeping in mind, we have no funding in FY '20 for any projects, except for the every other week recycling, which is funded for FY '20.
Which that would help increase diversion a little
But
bit.
and I hope people understand, it's, you know, and we have another mayor in this room, so I know it's sometimes difficult. I'm super impatient about moving forward. I mean, this is the most exciting thing we've ever done on waste at Metro. But just like, you know, baby birds trying to get food, every department is out there asking for funding, and every department has different priorities, and that always is a challenge, which is one reason why we're approaching this from the best case scenario and also with the extended timeline a little more pragmatic. What's the reality? You know, Metro's in a bit of a financial crisis right now. We didn't envision this when we first started the process. But it does mean that some of the more expensive things may have to be delayed. But there's a lot of things that we can do that have very little costs, that are policy-based, that are education-based. And one thing that I'm hoping that we get the opportunity to do, that we had talked about with the Briley administration and with Mary Beth Eichard, was doing a pilot food waste collection program, a residential pilot. Sometimes doing programs like that are small scale, but they help you to, first of all, determine the validity, but secondly, show people it can be done. You know, there are a lot of people that probably think some of these programs can't be done in Nashville. They are wrong. And sometimes you need to have a small pilot to kind of show. So I don't know if that really helps, but.
And I would add, too, if you look at some of the most successful programs, and I know Martin's going to touch a little bit on San Jose here in a second, but if you look at some of the most successful programs across the nation that are in the 60, 70, 80% diversion now, most of them started in the 80s. So it's not unprecedented, these programs, but our hope is that this plan actually lays out a set of priorities and a set of stair steps that can be taken to start moving that needle towards what we're talking about. I mean, we've got to get going forward somewhere. I think that's been some of the difficulty up till now, is it's been always the plan, but maybe there's been a little bit of running in place, and hopefully this lays out steps that can be implemented to start moving that needle forward. And then you can determine, you know, as funding and other things become available, how quickly you're able to move that forward.
So essentially, the flexibility is that, you know, the programs, there's certain programs that generally you want to come, you know, before others. And that's kind of laid out in the plan. But for these major ones that we've been talking about, getting the authority, getting the policies, getting the ordinances in place, then, you know, as working towards residential and commercial save as you throw, doing things in pilot steps, as Sharon mentioned, that is always a good way of going about it. And when you're talking about food waste or food scrap recovery, you know, you're starting at the larger commercial facilities, some of the industrial ones, and you start with those big producers, and then you kind of step your way back down to the smaller residential. But, you know, you're looking at pockets of the waste stream that we can efficiently and effectively target to get diversion programs going. Because as, you know, as Sharon said, if you can show, I mean, we here at the table, we believe in it, and if we can get programs going and we can start to see results, then you can build upon that and you can move forward. And that is essentially how a lot of the communities that have pushed towards zero waste have started. They have started with volume-based pricing at the curbside. They have started with mandatory recycling ordinances. You know, they have started with programs and policies that build on each other. And then they kind of get to a point where maybe they start getting even more aggressive and start going after harder to target materials. Trying to get to 90% diversion, you're way beyond plastic bottles, newspapers, and cardboard. And so you've got to get to materials that some of them you're developing new markets for, and those will come in time, and that's something we don't control, but there always are people looking at developing. If they know there's a feedstock of material available because your ordinance says that we want to divert this material, then that gives them an economic basis to say, okay, this material would be available. It would make sense for me to develop, a program, develop an end use around this material because I will have that feedstock coming to my facility. So that's kind of the basis, and that's why the remanufacturing hub, which is kind of the last piece in this puzzle, is just kind of think of a big complex that is taking materials that somebody else at one point thought it was waste. It now becomes an input into a manufacturing process, and then that manufacturing process's output becomes an input to another one, and we develop this hub of economic activity and material and resource management here within Davidson County or within the region that benefits not only Davidson County but the other surrounding counties. So that all of these things are all still part of the plan, whether they happen in 10 years or whether they happen in 30 years. They're all incremental steps that can be done, that can be implemented over time, and you can always be moving the needle forward. Maybe this graph isn't as steep an incline as we'd like, but we most certainly can get off of 18%, which has been kind of flat, and start moving our way in the right direction.
Where would you see the educational piece?
Huge.
No, where would it fall in what phase?
Oh, from the beginning.
Beginning, right.
From the beginning.
Because it'd be nice to see it listed there, because it seems as though unless that's in play, some of these other things aren't going to do anything to help change behaviors.
That's correct. I mean, and within the plan, that is, that's a big part of the plan from throughout the plan in terms of education and outreach. It's one of the components as you're trying to roll out these programs. You definitely have to educate people. We even have to start now with educating people on how to recycle. We have a lot of folks that are aspirational recyclers. Right. They think because it's plastic or because it's some material that it should be able to be recycled, and they put it in the recycling can. The problem is the processor that processes all the recyclables, he doesn't have an end market for that material. He can't effectively or efficiently separate and use it. So it's contamination, and it creates a problem. And it's one of the reasons why China pushed back on what we were sending over there, because we were sending a lot of recyclables that were contaminated with materials. And it's just a function of, I guess, just a little history lesson. We used to have dual stream recycling where you have your bottles in one and you have your paper, cardboard in another. And we went to single stream to drive recycling numbers up, and recycling numbers have gone up significantly since then. But the unknown or the unforeseen problem that has occurred is that as people just think, yeah, we recycle, and it's in our mindset to recycle, so that's a good thing. It's just that we're getting materials into the recycling stream that just currently, even though they technically may be recyclable, they're not really in the market for it, and so the facilities that process them, they just send them to the landfill because there's nothing they can do with them. So we've got to find a way from an education standpoint to simplify. My wife tells me all the time, you guys make this way too complicated. You guys have got to simplify this. Because you're like, is this recycled? Can I put this in it? And I say, well, yes, that, but no, that. And she's like, you got to find a way to simplify this. And I would agree that goes to the education. So I would say the education and the outreach starts from the beginning, but it also starts with the funding. If you don't have the funding to get the education out and pamphlets and different mechanisms to educate and have outreach, then it makes it more difficult. So
Is
I would
it-
agree with you.
Is there any, was there any discussion of whether or not throughout this phased process, any of it is a little bit cannibalistic? In as much as if your end goal is a remanufacturing hub and you're incentivizing, recycling to go out into the wherever, that you're preventing that end process from happening? Because that's obviously plays into somehow that process, right?
Yeah, I think we have to develop some level of end product from the beginning as we step through processes. I think the key part of that is the first one up there, having the authority, because at the point at which Metro Public Works maintains more of the authority over the waste stream, then they control the product a lot more. So, if they're controlling the product of recyclables and how it's being manufactured, there are obviously going to be outside entities that may on the front end take that. But as something were to come along, if someone were to approach the mayor's office and said, hey, I would like to come and set up this business here that's going to take 90% of your 90% of your plastics, for instance, to use locally here in Davidson County. If the city already has the authority around that waste stream, making that change to commit that is a lot easier than in the manner it is now when you have a lot of private authorities where at the end of the day, we don't even honestly know where a large portion of the waste stream ultimately ends up because they keep a lot of that close to the vest on purpose from a privatized standpoint.
Right.
I don't know if that answers
Yeah,
your
and so, you control your USD waste stream,
Right.
but you're never going to really control the GSD waste, right? So-
Well, the hope was with the
That's-
franchising and some of the other programs, obviously, all these things would have to be stepped in. We're not going to go tomorrow and say, okay, you 30 haulers that serve all of Davidson County right now, you're all out of business and we're going to use one. We're going to franchise the whole city of, all
Right.
of Davidson County, and that's the only person you can use. A lot of this, it's going to depend on how you sort of, ultimately, these are very big picture phases. There's a lot of smaller phases that come
Right.
in place of this. And like Sharon and Martin were touching on, even looking at, maybe you take a certain area of a town and you look at a franchise just for that area and sort of look at what the positives and negatives of how that sort of gets enacted. You look at food waste diversion in a certain area. You look at save as you throw in a certain area and sort of see what works well, what doesn't, and then we can start rolling that out on a larger scale and making some tweaks to it. Because it is, even though you hear a lot of these terms and different things in other communities, every community still in the depths of how they truly work that program, if you ask, San Jose and Denver or Austin and Minneapolis, some of the places that have made inroads, how they do it exactly is still slightly different. Once again, I hate to, just because I've read these slides, when he talks about San Jose in a second, because there was a question on wet dry that we're going to address a little bit. In San Jose, there is one provider. They collect everything. Republic collects the whole city. If you're a commercial entity in San Jose, you don't have a choice. You use Republic. That's the only thing, because they own the processing, they own the collection. That is the way it's set up. Now, it's worked well for them. They are the largest diverter in the nation, but there are a lot of positives and negatives, and they've also been working at it for 40 years to get to this point. So there is a lot of steps. I'm sure, 40 years ago when they started, they weren't talking about, you have to quote what is their system called? It's the only one in the United States. Well, no, the box, the non-air box, anaerobic digestion, something processing facility. No one even had that idea 40 years ago. It's the only one that exists in the United States. So that's the great thing about the manufacturing hub. That can happen and it probably, hopefully will happen at any step. As the city shows a commitment to passing some policies and really hammering at the diversion, the hope is that you start seeing some of those businesses come in that want to utilize those goods. I don't know
Yeah,
if that answered your
you're
question.
talking about some very disparate cultures there, but yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
I agree.
Right.
The cannibalization on just to sort of break it down, on the remanufacturing hub, you're looking at materials that aren't going to be as prevalent in terms of recycled bottles and cardboard and things. Those materials, the foundation of recycling it's still going to go to a material recovery facility. It's still going to be processed and sent out to market. So that you really won't, a remanufacturing hub isn't really going to cannibalize that component of the system. You're really looking at, from the remanufacturing hub, is what are the materials that maybe aren't traditional recyclable materials that are maybe a little bit harder to manage. And so those are the ones that will sort of be the target there. And that's why in the plan, the remanufacturing hub is on the back end after we've already gotten the 75% diversion. Now we're talking about the remanufacturing hub as a key component to get us from 75% to 90%. So in terms of cannibalization, the remanufacturing hub isn't set up to now all of a sudden pull all the materials that are the foundation of the program, in terms of from a diversion standpoint.
I mean,
if that
a
makes
great
sense.
example is one we all know, how difficult it is to do anything with glass right now. We all would agree glass is a recyclable product, but it is one of the hardest things, and right now cost is an issue with glass. If someone came and wanted to move into Nashville tomorrow and said, hey, can you get me 40,000 tons of glass a year, 50,000, those kind of things we can't control and we don't know where they'll happen. But that's the hope, is that some of those things do happen over time that allow a separate waste stream to be able to be diverted.
Right. Any more questions on that?
Let's move on to making a plan a reality,
Okay.
Yeah, that's what.
or a reality.
So in making the plan a reality, some of the recommendations that we have are in terms of issuing executive orders for waste reduction within Metro government. So it's basically let Metro government sort of lead the way. So, have program policies in place that waste reduction efforts are throughout Metro government. So Metro government can say, yes, we are doing this, we are invested in this, we are excited about this. This is a core of how we want to do business as a government. Establishing environmentally preferable purchasing program. This is another sort of step that can be done without a whole lot of funding. You basically establish within your procurement procedures and policies that you prefer environmentally friendly, less wasteful options when it comes to purchasing services or products or materials as a government. As Sharon mentioned earlier, on a pilot program, launch a residential food waste pilot program. Just take a look at it in a small area, develop the program, roll it out, see where the hurdles are, work through that, and then you have results that say, yes, we have diverted X percentage amount, it is cost this, but the benefits are Y, and then that can be used to make the case for rolling the program out full scale. Finalizing approach for executing strategies under the Metro Charter. The Metro Charter, as it is written now, relative to managing solid waste, is restrictive in terms of the control or the management ability that Public Works has. And so working through that to find a way to either rewrite or to actually execute the strategies under the current Metro Charter strategy is something that can be done, that can help move the plan forward, even though it's not a program that we're implementing. It's a necessary step for the programs when it's time to implement. So it's a key thing to move the plan forward, and it's not something that is going to take a huge amount of cost. I mean, it takes staff time and effort, but it's not like a major cost component. Draft recycling mandates for C&D waste. Start working down that process of how can we divert more C&D waste away, and come up with mandates and ordinances for that. And then coming up with food scrap diversion mandates for large generators. So this would be, big grocery stores or universities or big industrial facilities that are big generators, large generators of food waste, and have something that says that they need to start, if you generate X amount, then you need to start working towards having a food waste diversion program. So these are sort of the things, aside from, as Sharon mentioned earlier, you're already taking a big step in terms of going from once a month recycling to biweekly recycling. That's a huge step that hopefully will lead to increased recycling. So I know we've had questions. Are there any other questions on the plan itself?
I think how I'd like to suggest we move forward is have you turn to the issue around San Jose, and then we can come back and talk about the plan and have a further conversation about it. That makes sense. And let me just tee up the San Jose piece for a minute, and just as some of the board members who've been here a long time, we know some of the advocates have for a long time talked about the wet-dry process. And this kind of, I guess it came to a greater clarity at the last meeting when I believe it was you, Jennifer, who had asked about having John Vanderhorst explain deeper about that, and we started questioning it. And it got back to the San Jose wet-dry as kind of that. And we asked our consultants to, so go dig into it a little bit more for us and bring this back to make sure that we all understood kind of where that was, just to make sure. And we know that you'd already done that, and you, in a way, in a sense, had said this is recommending this is not the way to go for us. So we understand that that's a recommendation. Obviously, wet dry in that form is not in the plan. So with that, please.
All right. So the San Jose wet dry, it's program. First, it's a commercial program. They started in 2012, and it targets just the commercial waste stream. So about 8,000 businesses. They collect about 300 tons a year in material.
300,000.
What did I say?
300.
Oh, 300,000 tons per year. And basically you have, a big private infrastructure system just around that system. You've got a large MRF, material recovery facility, where all of the material comes to and gets separated, and some of it's separated as recyclable, some of it's then sent off to an organics processing services facility to generate compost. You've got, as Zach mentioned earlier, there's one exclusive commercial hauler. They did a franchise agreement for the commercial sector, and they came away with one hauler. That hauler also put the investment in to build the MRF that all the materials go to. There's another private entity that developed the organics processing services. So they essentially went from 20-plus haulers down to one that is servicing the commercial sector. And I think overall, probably $100 million worth of investment, to kind of drive this facility. And if you look at San Jose compared to Nashville, the amount of commercial waste that Nashville-Davidson County generates is about double that. So take what San Jose is doing it and doubling it if you try to, sort of target a wet-dry system for the commercial sector. But that's the commercial sector. Just a point to make on the residential side, they still have a cart system where they have trash cart and they have recycling cart that is part of the service. And then there's an organics cart that you can get if you want the third cart. So they're collecting separately trash, recyclables, organics, and then yard waste trimmings. So it's not wet-dry for the residential and commercial. This is just a wet-dry system that targets the commercial. Now, it does simplify, a wet-dry system in its basis is a simpler approach in the fact that, you have dry things that go in the dry bin, and you have, wet organics that go in the wet bin or the wet dumpster. So it simplifies it in terms of separation at the source. You have, one less pickup or a couple less pickups, so it can reduce, the fleet to become more energy efficient. And the one thing it does sort of guarantee is that you at least capture 100% of the waste that's being generated. Now, that does not mean that they're recycling or recovering 100%. So let me clearly differentiate between capture, which is collecting it, and then what they're actually recycling and what they're actually diverting. There's a difference, and they're probably around what they say is about 70% diversion, so from the commercial sector using this approach. So for a wet-dry system, you're going to have some fairly complex processing facilities. You're going to have a mixed waste processing facility where all your sort of dry garbage, your recyclables, they all come to, all come to one place, and then they have to get separated out. And then you've got an organics processing facility that's kind of got to handle the organics materials. So you have very large and complex infrastructure that's needed to support it. And this wasn't something that San Jose started with in the very beginning. San Jose, I think it was in 2007, first had their ordinance or their goal for zero waste. They implemented quite a few things. They already had pay-as-you-throw or volume-based pricing in place. Then they kind of went to, all right, let's look at what we can do in multifamily, and then what can we look at in other programs. And then the wet-dry came around in 2012. So they had been going along this pathway probably since the early 80s, late 90s in terms of how they increased diversion, and then they've gotten to this point in 2012. So it's not, I bring that up to say that it's not something that they started with. It's something that after they got to essentially a full-blown program, they looked at, would this make more sense for the commercial waste stream? And that's kind of how they rolled that out. So contamination levels are going to be higher in mixed waste just because you got everything together. So now you've got to have, the processing is more intricate and more complicated to make sure you're separating out materials and maximizing the amount of recovery from the facility. And as we mentioned before, China's national sword policy really pushed, it was really disruptive to recycling industry because it mandated no more than 0.5% contamination in any bale of material being sent to them. So we were typically starting to push 20%. So we went from, being able to send a bale that was 20% contaminated to you can't send anything that's more than 0.5%. And that's the disruption to the recycling industry that has occurred as a result of that. So if you're mixing everything together in this day and age with the restrictions that are in place relative to contamination, you're going to spend more time separating it out and trying to get to the point where you have a clean bale of recyclable materials or compost material that you're sending somewhere for somebody to use. So the processing gets more complicated as the contamination levels that are acceptable get lower. So one of the questions, and I didn't really ask San Jose, so I don't have an answer, but given the marketplace now, given the struggles that there are globally, they made this decision in 2012 where a lot of communities were getting paid for their recyclables. Now you're in a marketplace where municipalities, local governments have to pay to get recyclables taken care of. So in this environment, would this still be an approach that they would take? And I guess we're thinking that it probably wouldn't be, or it would be significantly tailored differently, just because of the contamination issues that are associated with this type of program. So that was it on.
Well, thank you for that, Martin and Zach. Sharon, thank you for all your input into this as well. We're going to have the lights come on. Is everybody ready to? If you're drooling or sleeping, it's time to wipe your mouth, and we'll get on with it here. Sorry. As I said before, this is a conversation that is happening among the board. That we're treating this meeting as a kind of a third reading at City Council. If there's not going to be a public comment period as there has in the past. I know that some of you would like to do that perhaps, but we're not going to do that now. I do want to just point out, though, that as I've said before we have our conversation, is that there's been a whole bunch of public input and comment on this. And I feel really I'm comfortable going in the direction I'm going. I'm suggesting we go for the public comment tonight is because there's been so much input and also leadership. You look at the fact that, for example, Ram and John Vanderhorst asked this question about wet dry and pushed it, and that we had some clarity around it was a really good thing. The fact that Linda Bregan and Todd and others have really pushed, and the mayor's office, Mary Beth, have really pushed these ideas around food waste. And I'm incredibly comfortable knowing where we are kind of in the infrastructure outside of government that's been happening to move food waste. So I think there's a lot of good things, and there's been a lot of good input from many places around this program. So with that said, I'm going to turn it over, and if the board has comments about the plan, anything they want to particularly emphasize, and kind of get on the record as we move forward, push your button and raise your hand.
I have a question. Under the setting goals and priorities, one of them was to revive recovery programs for C&D waste. And I am wondering, I like that plan. How that unfolds, how does that come into reality? How do we push this agenda of making companies stick around and do their job and not sell out? And what's the plan for that?
Well, the plan for C&D waste is that the C&D deposit program, that's sort of the big program that attacks the C&D market.
And so you think that would be an incentive for a company to kind of stick around?
It's more of a, I guess it could be an incentive or a stick, either one. Much like most of the programs, they would have to fight, if you came in to do, whether it's once again, this could be something that stepped in. Well, it may start out as large commercial, demolition or construction and work its way down to residential or however it ends up being structured. But when you come in to get a building permit, you would put a deposit system in, which would require you to develop a recycling plan for a certain portion. Now, what that portion is, that may also ramp up. It may start as something lower, and it ramps up over time. But you then, as a builder or contractor, are putting a plan together in which you are committing to a certain amount of diversion and recycling of your materials. If you meet that goal, you get that deposit back.
I understand how that works.
Right. Well, so the ultimate idea, just like with the recycles or anything else, if Davidson County has a plan in place which requires certain things to happen, now I've got a consumable product that I can then go to these private industries and say, I've got a waste stream that is available for you to utilize. Some of the problem in the past, because there weren't any type of direct programs, there was no real incentive for me as a builder per se, if I just didn't care about the potential of recouping the cost for those metals, those concrete. If it was just built in my price, it's just easier for me to, just like you see in the commercials, to contact Waste Management or Home Depot with the big green bag. They come and deliver to your house. I just throw everything in it. I don't have to worry about it, and it just goes away. If I, as a business, know that waste stream is there and is mandated to be directed to a end source for recyclables or for reuse, I then am more comfortable investing my financial dollars to put a project in place to do that.
I agree with you that this is a good business plan. I'm just wondering if we can, enforce something where a market doesn't exist yet.
Well,
Are you referring to someone would establish a processing facility?
That would be the hope.
The logical.
And Jennifer is right.
Next
We can't
step.
we could put a policy in place that says there can be no more C&D waste go to a landfill, and tomorrow, 6 months from now, there may be no business that exists, and Sharon's phone's ringing off from every contractor in the county saying, what am I supposed to do with this?
Yeah.
Right.
The key when you develop the ordinance is that you set the thresholds for where you want C&D recycling to happen and how you want it to happen, but it's also based upon the availability of a processing facility within a reasonable distance. So what that then drives is, somebody that's trying to build or finance a waste management facility or processing facility, they've got to go to somebody and they've got to borrow the money, or they've got to make a pitch for it. And the pitch is that there's a policy in place that is going to drive a certain amount of material to that facility if it's constructed. And so with that, lack of a better term, guaranteed feedstock of material coming, they can then make a business case for getting the financing to build that facility, because they know once the facility is built and the doors are open and they're meeting that criteria for recycling, that people that are getting building permits and doing construction within Davidson County, that material would have to then go there because there is a facility capable of accepting it and capable of recycling it.
And in your work across the country, have you seen this bear out? Has it worked?
It has worked.
I think for Nashville, we've had several C&D facilities that have closed, partially because there is no, requirement. In fact, years ago, we sat down with a company that's actually in the process of closing, and they were a hauler and early on trying to get into recycling. And the thing that they asked is, would Public Works please try and pass some legislation to make this a requirement? It's easy to say that. Now, we do have a little bit of support in the council for an incremental approach, sort of like a what we're talking about here, which is starting to require people to divert things that are easily recyclable, that they may already be recycling, but require them to do it and to report it. So you start with your metals, you start with your unpainted, untreated wood, you start with cardboard and things that we know there's multiple markets for those materials, and you require it, and you slowly get people to the point, well, maybe not so slowly, but over a few years, get people to the point where we then are building some confidence. The very large developers are recycling, and some of them very aggressively. And right now, Waste Management will soon be the only facility that we have, and their business model doesn't necessarily, support aggressive recycling, which is disappointing, because in 2010, we actually passed legislation, Metro Council passed legislation making it easier for them to recycle on their landfill, waiving requirements that their recycling had to be indoors. They approached us requesting it, and then they have systematically not done that since that happened. The good news is we do have another company that's interested in coming into this area, and part of that is because the large developers want an option other than just the current one. They want another option besides Waste Management, and that does help to support the market. As long as we can find ways to, through policy and legislation, encourage and require and move that direction. I think with the very large projects, they're already doing it. The sort of next tier down, I think expecting the Home Builders Association to do this anytime soon is unlikely. But you start, just like with organics, you start with the large producers. And like Kroger here in Nashville, a lot of those large producers, a lot of those large builders, Matthews Company, they have a corporate policy that requires it. And that's the kind of model we need to encourage the sort of mid-sized developers to adopt. Because that, when you've got developers saying, we're going to do it, we don't care how much it costs, we're going to do it. That's how you keep people in the market.
And the good thing with C&D waste is there's actually a lot of pieces that are break even or even money makers for a lot of these contractors. When some of these pieces are just naturally diverted, if you take the time and effort to separate rebar or to separate conduit that's metal, you can actually, make money off of some of those things. And a lot of the large demolition contractors around Nashville, they live and bid off the idea that they're making money on some of those things. It's just expanding. It's expanding that. And there is a lot of, the holistic plan, just like anything would be, is very dependent on growth and economic development and other businesses coming into the workforce, ultimately. I mean, we could go, just like Martin mentioned, Metro could go and build a $250 million facility and take everything at one location and process it. But I don't think anybody's willing to make a municipal, okay, sorry. I'll be quiet.
Yeah, I just wanted to say I think the most important component for a success strategy for this is going to be who is the parent? Who is parenting this? And so who is parenting this? Because plans are great, studies are great, but who's going to actually be married to this process and make sure it gets to school on time, And that's my question.
Well, it's going to be the Public Works Department.
How do we make sure that Public Works controls the waste stream in Nashville? I mean, that's the heart of it right there.
So, I guess I would almost say that a recommendation I would have would be, and I don't know how this flies up through the bureaucratic chain, to have some kind of an entity that's actually responsible for loving this project.
So we are going to be able to hire a person in Public Works that will be sort of our quasi zero waste coordinator. That will, their job will be to take the plan, work on the plan, work with Kelly Tipler, who is over our beautification program, and myself to help us draft and move things forward. But at the end of the day, if we can't get the political support and we can't get the funding, we just have to keep driving for that and pushing it. Part of the reason Mayor Briley decided to fund every other week recycling is we've just been pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. It took way longer than it should have, but I think that's what we have to do. So we really need more than one person. We actually need a team of people. But I think that part of how we make the argument for this is what we show through success and as we move it forward. I'm very optimistic. At the same time, I think we have to be cautiously optimistic because we don't know what the funding climate will be. We could do a food waste and organics pilot program in the next fiscal year easily. I mean, we've already looked internally, the type of vehicle we would need to purchase, the type of containers we'd want to distribute to houses, how many full-time employees we would need. And it's actually really not that much, but it's just a matter of working with council, each one of us lobbying our elected officials and trying to get their support, because council's the one that approves. The mayor creates a budget, sends it to council, and they're the ones that look it over and they approve it. And so they have a very important role in this.
I just wonder if after you get the temperature of this administration, and of course I think it should be obviously predicated upon whether or not you're going to have the support, that you need that maybe the idea of a steering committee or some kind of I love that you hire somebody who's that's their job, but I feel like you need, I just know that pushy people get things done,
Yeah.
So let me, Lisa, hold on one moment on yours. But I was holding this off to the end, but part of, so this is part of what our role could be. It's not, we're charged by law basically to approve a plan and make sure if somebody proposes a landfill, whether that's C&D or a municipal garbage landfill, that we can either say, does that fit the plan or not? Ultimately, that is our legal charge. However, what we have done with this plan and what we did when we scoped out what we wanted to do and what we did when we suggested, when we said and we had a motion that said we want every other week collection, that came from us. We don't, and the last plan said we do, any more C&D landfills, you have to show us before we're even going to consider what you're doing, you have to show us that you have a recycling on site, that you're doing something. So we have that moral authority. And that's basically what we could do here. Is like you said, the steering committee. We could be convening 4 times a year. How you doing? Where are we? What do we need to do next? So there's a role for this committee if we chose to take that on. So it's not, and we can only propose, we cannot dispose or divert. But
The other piece I would add is just like a lot of the key issues that you're seeing in Middle Tennessee right now, I think Davidson County has to take the lead. I don't think there's any doubt about that. That's why you all chose to do this work. That's why Sharon's committed to trying to move this forward. There are a lot of things moving at the regional level too. I think the more the region and some of the regional solid waste discussions that are ongoing, the more that the groups can work together, the better chance of, as a region, us starting to bite the apple are as well.
Yeah, I mean, at the Greater Nashville Regional Council, we're working on this kind of in a different way.
Parallel, right?
Yes.
So,
So they've developed the first part of a regional solid waste plan, and we meet pretty regularly as a group. But I think that the only way we're going to really succeed is if we work together as a region, because the waste, a lot of people are bringing their recycling into Davidson County. A lot of us are taking our waste outside of Davidson County. Even our organics are leaving Davidson County. We have to work together. We have to find ways that we can overcome the politics of it and work together, because that moves us into a whole new level.
To jump back to Jennifer's
on a
question,
second.
the regional side really drives exactly at the point
Right.
you're making. The more we bring a bigger pot of stuff, the better. So if we have 15 counties all putting their recyclables to one place, that's going to drive a lot more business.
Is there something that we could do in this one where we have making the plan a reality? Is there something that we could do now in the section of finalizing the approach, looking at the Metro Charter? Is there something we could be doing now that if right now we had a magic wand that we had everything we wanted, what part of the charter do we need to overcome? Is there something we could do with that?
So I'm looking at legal here.
Okay.
And I don't, and consultants, I don't know, I know you dug into this. And so, there's, there's language.
Yeah,
so-
and I'm going to speak for Tara. Okay. I'm not an attorney, but I've stayed in the Holiday Inn. But I have read the charter. It's very exciting. The thing with the charter is that it gives Public Works very limited authority. And the charter created the Urban Service District and the General Service District. So we have these two tax districts. And one tax district does not include any waste collection at all. And that's the General Service District. In the General Service District, you're on your own. You can contract with anyone you want to. In the Urban Service District, Metro Public Works has a lot more control, but only over residential collection and small business. So the problem with the charter is, if we wanted to go to a rate-based system, if we wanted to do the smart thing, which is say, if you use X gallons of water, you're charged Y. If you use so many kilowatt hours of electricity, you're charged, Y. And if you generate so much trash, you pay whatever. The only way we could do that would be to change the charter, which would require a referendum. The other way to do that is to create the Solid Waste Authority, which kind of provides a different option, because you're taking the control of waste from Public Works and you're putting it under the authority, wherever that's housed. Like, it could be at Public Works. And so that's one reason why we've been sort of focusing on the authority, because it's a way to do it that doesn't require a referendum, but it's a way to do it that I think could be better, because it's putting the control into this, legal entity. And there are also models in Tennessee of solid waste authorities. There's one, and Jason, you remember, was the interlocal agreement up in Hendersonville, or?
Yeah, they've got, so the entire Sumner County has all 4 cities, plus the county has more.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's already happening. One thing that we've been looking at is, does Davidson County have an authority, or do we try to create a regional authority? There's a lot of interest in the regional authority, partially because some facilities that we may want to have here in Nashville, like the compost facility that's in Ashland City. They tried to build it in Davidson County, and because of our zoning, it was really hard. So it's in an adjacent county. Why do we don't need to have everything in Davidson County. We don't need Rutherford County to create everything there. If we could work together as a region and have a regional authority, and I'm not saying we should do one versus the other, because there's definitely benefits both ways, but the regional authority brings so much more to the table because counties can help each other. Davidson County has much more purchasing power than, let's say, any other county in Middle Tennessee. So they can benefit from our purchasing power. We can benefit from their ability to permit sites that would be harder to do here. Because, let's face it, we're losing a lot of our industrial properties. The properties that we've historically had, those little pockets. All these young hipsters are moving here and converting warehouses into lofts and stuff. So, over time, we become more of a residential and commercial versus industrial. So, I could just ramble on about this for a long time, but I do think that there's an option to the charter.
And that would be the authority?
Yes.
An authority, okay.
Did I say anything wrong? No. Oh, okay, good deal.
And I support this message. I will say that I did do, I believe, a memo that's completely sort of walks you through what would be needed to create this, and it was about a year and a half ago that we talked about it, and I would be more than willing to distribute that to you all so you could review it. As I sit here today, I cannot regurgitate it, but we can definitely get it to you as soon as possible.
Yeah, so the concept of a solid waste authority is in Tennessee code. It's not something, super innovative or new. We can do it.
I think, Sharon, isn't Sevier Counties, is theirs a solid waste authority too with that one facility?
I wouldn't be surprised if it was. There are other examples, yeah.
There's the plan lays out sort of the framework behind the solid waste authority. So if you want to kind of delve into it a little bit, it's in the plan in terms of how that would be structured, what the benefits are, and how that could potentially be rolled out, and what the challenges are.
So I think we have to be really clear that it's in the plan. This is when we're voting on it today, we're basically saying, look at this. We think this is the right way to go. So just it's not like maybe. We're just know that that's what we're saying from this board.
If the world was run by solid waste people, we'd already have one.
That's a scary thought, but okay.
I'm good.
I see your light on.
I'm not good. I'm ready for another question. All right. So under making the plan a reality, I like that idea. The first slot, issue an executive order on waste reduction within metro government. So given our limbo moment, outgoing mayor, incoming mayor, who is issuing an executive order and when do you recommend that happen?
So what we're likely to do is see who the environmental person is. It's very
on the staff of the new mayor?
Yes. It's very hopefully possible that Mary Beth will be there and help us going forward. So the transition is difficult to gauge, but that doesn't mean we can't draft a policy for the mayor, which is what we would do anyway, and work with the other various departments. This has the potential. So Linda Bragan, who is here partially probably representing the Natural Resource Defense Council, had approached the Berry administration? Or was it Briley about the executive order?
Oh, yes.
Both of them? Okay. On organics. And I think that what was in that, the organics, was absolutely perfect. We supported it. I looked at it. You can start that, but yeah, we're going to have to see where the new mayor is, and hopefully he's going to keep Mary Beth or, yeah, hopefully, yeah.
Are you allowed to say anything?
Pardon?
I think that we probably have enough on that right now. I'm just paying attention to everybody. And Jennifer, are you clear on that point?
It sounds like we are not doing it under the wire with the current administration.
I don't know. No, I mean, so there's a couple things. There's a couple of things, right? I mean, that could happen, but part of it, I think we have to understand what our role is. And that, I think, and this is part of what I was going to recommend as next steps, is that, you and me or a subset of us also meet with the mayor's office, also meet with the Public Works Committee, also meet with the vice mayor, and talk about what. So it's not coming from Public Works; it's coming from us, and whoever wants to go, I think that'd be a conversation, and we can ask them for an executive order. We can ask them for all this stuff, and we can say that because we own this. If we vote on it and say up, we own it. And in a way, we're proposing, you're implementing. The city's going to implement, and the region is going to implement. But I strongly feel that we need a subset of us to do that, to make those presentations.
Yeah, we need this board's support, and we need members of this board. The only reason we got the money to do this plan was because John met with the mayor. We wanted to do a plan, but sometimes it takes people outside of the department. It's like, you need somebody besides your kid to tell you sometimes.
And it was the committee that told me to go meet with the mayor.
Exactly.
So, I mean, you made that, it wasn't.
Yeah, it was a resolution of this board.
It was a resolution of this board to make that happen, so. Other questions? Well, everybody's on the edge of their seat. I think, Jeff, you're ready to go down there. So, I think I've kind of said a lot of what I wanted to say, just kind of from wrapping it up from my perspective. But I do think that, this is for me. I'm really excited. I think it's an incredible plan. Is it perfect? No, of course not. Part of this plan is that just like everything we've had before, this is a living document that we need to revisit at least annually. And I think that we don't need to do it this meeting, but we need to hold. In a way, we're going to hold accountable Sharon, staff, and say, tell us how you doing, right? And not that we are, so we can just tell us how you doing and how can we help. So it's kind of that both and. So that's one. This is not like we got it, we can go away. Secondly, this whole thing about who controls the waste. In a way, the city is given, here's your waste. Here's stuff that we're all generating, all of us, and we buy stuff, right? And so then we're given these packages we have to do something with. So in a way, we, taxpayers of this county, having to pay for a lot of waste that wasn't really thoughtfully created, the packaging wasn't thoughtfully done. And so what? So here we are. But it's something that really upsets me, that we're handed something and we have to pay for somebody else's creation because they weren't very thoughtful. And we don't have good federal policies and we don't have good state policies that actually help industry put some boundaries around what they're doing. So this is my position. This is not the board's position. This is my position. So that's something that's important to me. And I think that this idea of, yes, we have to look at the cost of landfilling. We have to look at the cost of this. And really part of why we're all here is we're driven by a moral responsibility that's beyond that. And I think that part of what we have to do in our appeal, it's not, the dollar and cents are important, but it's not only dollar and cents. We made that decision when we voted against expanding the Southern Services landfill 5 or 6 years ago. We lost in court, but we knew that we did the right thing there. And we need to do the right thing and take positions that even if it's like more costly or more this or more that, it's important for us, I believe, to take that position. And finally, that just leads me to, I think that we let the Department of Public Works and we let the City Council, we let the mayor decide what they think is the best timeline. I think that we want to suggest the most aggressive timeline we can. and that we start there. And if we trust in this plan, then that's where we ought to start. So with that, I'll get off my stump or whatever I'm on, and just say that's where I am, and I would invite somebody to make a motion to either adopt or to reject the plan as written. We have some modifications, some amendments to it. Is that right? But I think first we have to adopt the plan, then we can go to those amendments. Anybody?
Move to approve.
Second,
Everybody did?
with modifications.
Yes, yeah. So the plan is motion to adopt and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Wonderful. Thank you. Pat yourselves on the back out there. This is a big moment in our history. With that, and Lisa had said it, yay, thank you. Clap yourselves, guys. It's wonderful. There's a few housekeeping things with the plan. These are small amendments that has nothing to do with substance. They were shared with the board recently, today or I guess last week. Very small, minor things, but things that I think, Terry, you thought were big enough to make sure that we actually address them now. And so everybody has that list before them. I would just suggest again that we have somebody move to adopt the amendments to the plan as presented.
So move.
Jeff, second?
Second.
Ms. Lisa, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Wonderful. Thank you. Sharon, you have your plan. Consultants, thank you for your good work. Leave us your phone number so we can call you and ask you about it later. We have other business yet. We're not leaving. We don't have to get out of here for another hour and a half, right? And seriously though, the point being, the only other business is that I would like us to reconvene probably early in next year after we know what's happening with the new mayor and with the city council, and we have a feeling like we just figure out where we are, and then of course we'll have to have another session when we have to approve next year's the annual report. But I would think we shoot for then, and I would anybody who would like to meet with the new incoming mayor and meet with an incoming public works or even the current one, let's talk. And I think we don't need all of us, although we all could go. I don't care, but I do think that that's something that's really important. That I will ask you all to. I'll be contacting all of you through I guess I have to contact through you, don't I? Yes. Okay. Okay. With that, if there's nothing else, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Beth, all right. Second. So, all right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're going home. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.